This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories, and welcome to my review of Daredevil's Born Again Season 1, Episode 3. This episode is titled The Hollow of His Hand, and looking at it, I think that this is definitely the weakest episode of the season. Still some solid moments in it, but I do think some changes could have been made if the actor who played White Tiger didn't pass away, but it's just something that feels just really odd that he went on and managed to get off as not guilty in this. I feel like just looking at the evidence that was supported and the testimony that he was able to give, really with everything, even though I knew the person was innocent, I feel like the evidence more pushed towards guilty than not guilty. And I don't know, it just feels really odd. And then there's a good amount of intrigue at the end where the Punisher, or at least someone wearing his uniform, comes in and executes Hector, and he ultimately winds up dying. And yeah, I'm interested to see where this does go because, as I said, it was interesting to see. The trial was done well, but I feel like this is where they had most of the reused scenes, and I think it definitely affected the quality of this episode just a little bit. But whatever they did add in, it was still a solid enough episode. I think that Matt's speech was compelling and it was overall done well. I just feel like, I don't know, it just feels like, just based on the evidence that was presented in the episode, it just feels like someone who didn't know what was going on would more likely than not say that he was guilty. And well, I did really enjoy, the stuff that Matt did, and I feel like everything was well presented. I just feel like really everything else said was likely to get him be guilty, but maybe I'm just maybe being a little too cynical with this and looking into it because there was the total emotional part where, yeah, Matt's speech was really good and you definitely do want to believe it, but as I said, it just feels like it's probably just a thing of, emotional versus like logical, where, yeah, the DA says, the stuff that at least it does make sense. He says, they are not guilty. They, just because they've done a lot of good doesn't mean they can't be guilty of this. And I mean that is true. So I feel like it's all just a matter of how things are done. And yeah, honestly, I'd say that personally, I feel that the DA did give a better case, but I think it's at least believable enough. Although that's just not the implication I personally got from the episode. So personally, I'd like to know: do you think the same as me, or am I just uh am I just missing something in this episode? But just continuing on with the episode. Honestly, I think that really the rest of it was good. There is some fun twists where they just have the informant not want to really tell anything. They never fully explain it. They have their suspicions and they're never really able to prove it. And then Matt revealing who White Tiger is, yeah, that was a scene where they definitely did the judge to talk to him and be like, "You in the last episode said that we shouldn't reveal this and it would change the case, and you just were a giant hypocrite and did it." And yeah, it did wind up helping him win it, but Matt just, yeah, he was a hypocrite in this scene, but he's just doing really whatever he thinks is right. And I'm sure he'd be really mad if someone did that to him, but I think that his big motivation is after seeing Hector being murdered for returning to being a hero, he just really is going to be pushed back into being Daredevil, realizing that the crime is really bad, and I feel like he can have a really interesting conversation with Frank because, well, Frank is a person who just kills people who he thinks are guilty, and I don't know if Frank knows the full context of the situation because if he does, I feel like there's going to be another really big killing spree done by him. But yeah, honestly, it was just super interesting to see. So just really, really great to see Punisher return, and I'm interested to see what they do with him. But yeah, going through the rest of it, as I said, biggest thing is I feel like he should have been found guilty just based on what was presented in the episode. At least, in the trial, discounting the fact that we know what has actually happened. And just, going through really everything else, I think that the episode was overall really solid. The stuff with Fisk was definitely interesting where he's wanted to give up this criminal empire and his wife isn't. I feel like we're going to eventually see Fisk reach that breaking point where he returns to becoming the Kingpin, and my prediction is that's going to be at the end of the season, where something's going to happen that pushes him to. But yeah, I'm interested to see how he really reacts to Matt becoming Daredevil again because he knows that Matt is Daredevil, and I think that is definitely going to be interesting. But yeah, honestly, as I said, it was a solid episode. Easily, in my opinion, the weakest of the three. I'd still say the premiere was my favorite, followed by the second episode. Then this episode was definitely the weakest. No real major fight scene or anything in it. But still, there's some good interactions, like in the bathroom and Matt was talking to that one officer was pretty interesting. But yeah, I also didn't really expect the trial to be that short. I felt like it was going to take another episode or two to finish up, but still, it was solid and enjoyable enough. I think they did a good job, and I feel like if they were able to, reshoot those scenes since the actor passed away, then they could have made this a little better. But considering the fact that they couldn't do that, and what was on here wasn't completely terrible, it just says that it had that one thing where I just really didn't agree with the verdict. I think that things were written a little differently for maybe him to be not guilty, and the reshoots did have to change some things where the context just didn't make as much sense, or it was just something changed, and they had to do the best they could with using the scenes they had, and I don't blame them for that. I think it did cause some issues, but I'd rather have them do that than disrespect the actor by having to recast him. So ultimately, it is interesting, and it's just so odd with some of these projects where there's an actor who is killed in the series that the actor dies during the production of the movie, and it's just one of those really odd things because it's just an odd coincidence, and the next episode is really going to be focused on his legacy and Matt kind of wanting to avenge him and seek justice once again as Daredevil. I also wonder if his niece is going to become the White Tiger because I do remember them mentioning that White Tiger is, or this from seeing some episode of one of those animated Spider-Man ones that someone else was watching, that there was also a female one, and I'm assuming that was his niece. So yeah, honestly, it was a solid episode. I think that the ending was done really well with the sound of that one frog that, that sounds more like a bird, but it was well done enough. And even though I said this is personally, in my opinion, the weakest of the episodes, it was still a solid episode, and I'm excited to see what happens next week. But yeah, honestly, I want to know what you think. Please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you on the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.